Hey guys, this is Alex DeLeon, and you are watching my episode of LipRoll with Valerie Morehouse.
Welcome to LipRoll.
So I'm either working in LA on music or I'm in Nashville. When I'm in Nashville, I'm just relaxing. That's my quiet / happy place where I just breathe, let it all out, and then from there, I go travel or...
Well, it's good to be able to catch up with you today. So Alex DeLeon, thank you for joining us today on LipRoll. We're very excited to have you. It's been a long time, and I can't believe we were just saying off camera that this is the first time I'm seeing you in over 6 years, which has been totally nuts because I follow you on Instagram, and you were sort of a staple part of the studio for a while, and then you just kind of disappeared, and you've been traveling all over the world.
Yeah.
So...
you met me at a really crazy, as you know, but maybe other people don't, crazy pivotal moment in my life where, I was touring with my band.
Yeah.
We had just finished probably the biggest tour of our lives, and the band broke up for many reasons, but I was at this point where I was like, what am I doing next?
Right.
I had a pretty bad vocal injury, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Right. We'll get into all that.
All of these different things kind of is like this perfect storm of I think everyone hits this wall of in their mid-20s, not a midlife crisis, but everyone, you're figuring out who you are and what you want.
Right.
And where you want to go in your life. Mm-hmm. And so I just started traveling. I didn't know what else to do. I was single. Right. I was just okay, I need to figure everything out. Am I still going to do music? Am I going to get a real job? Am I going to be a songwriter? Am I going to be an artist? So I went to about 85 countries.
Yeah.
So I did all 7 continents.
I think there's later somebody on our team, all of our team, put together a game where we're going to actually talk about that. So it'll be really fun.
Awesome, yeah.
Because I just said before you walked in, I said, I think probably Alex is the most well-traveled person that I know. Because just watching you the last 5+ years, just every time I see you, you're in a different country, and I'm tired just staring at your Instagram.
I love it. I could do it. I could do it for the rest of my life.
Well, you don't have kids yet, so.
When I'm home, I feel like I love being home, and then 2 days later, I'm like, all right,
you've got that bug.
I got to get out of here.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you love to travel. I mean, we met on my birthday in 2012, and Chris Knight sent you over to me.
Yep.
Which is interesting because Chris and I are, he's such a good guy.
The best. My amazing manager, it's still my manager. He'll be my manager forever.
Yeah.
Because he's become family.
Yeah,
he's so much more than a manager. He's just the sweetest guy you could ever want in your corner.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's gone from with Azov to over to... was he running Adam Levine's label? Is that what he was doing?
He's at Career Artist Management with them, and now he's with Rock Nation.
He's with Rock Nation, right? Yeah. He's got, as Kelty, his wife always says, who we're going to have on the show at some point too, he's got a huge Rolodex.
Yeah.
He's the most quiet, that won't even let you take a photo of him.
Yeah. Yeah, he won't take
really
pictures.
Private.
He's hilarious.
It's really
People
sweet.
Adore him.
Yeah. But the first impression I had of your voice when I met you was kind of like you guys in the cab were on your way to being sort of like a rockier, you being the lead singer, a rockier Justin Timberlake.
Yep.
Because I remember you saying that to me, and the music was really, really good.
Thank you.
And then I felt like it was just a click that we met, and then all of a sudden you were out on this tour, and were you in Asia touring?
Yeah, we did a world tour opening for Maroon 5, which was predominantly Asia and Australia.
And that's where all of this kind of started, where you sort of at the beginning of your career really ran into not the end, but a huge, massive stop, right? A huge wake-up call. It
was after the biggest tour of our lives. It was we went from playing in America. We had done some arena tours opening for bands and artists, but that tour, we went from playing, I think the month before, playing in front of 2,000 to playing in front of 40,000.
Right.
Literally 10 days later.
Right.
So it was really crazy, and the stress.
Well, very stressful.
Yeah, physically stressful.
Mentally,
emotionally.
We always talk on LipRoll. We've other artists that we've had on. They've been very forthcoming with the stress that they have in this business, and that people think it's very glamorous, and it's not. It's very difficult.
Yeah, and I think as you've probably heard from other people, obviously there's solo acts and then there's bands, and they all have different pressures, right? So if you're like a big pop star,
right,
you have, I mean, hundreds of people working for you in different departments, whether it's the record label, whether it's management, whether it's styling, and like all of these different things.
And
you
everybody
have your
needs
sound
something
guys,
from
your techs.
you. Yeah.
Everyone
They're expecting
is
something.
waiting on you for a paycheck, and everyone is waiting on you to succeed.
Right.
And when you're in a band, it's even worse because you're almost in like a marriage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have like these people that are in a band with you, especially early on in my career. We would tour and I would get sick. I'd be like really sick. I had like strep throat, like laryngitis, all the above. And if I didn't sing, we wouldn't be able to get to the next show because we were counting on the $500 to pay for gas to get to the next city, or
and
to
it's
sell
all
some t-shirts.
Ticket sales and merch now,
yeah, so
right?
I would be like 17 years old, and you know, my band didn't ever do it on purpose, but there's the pressure of like, hey man, like you got to suck it up. You got to like go out there and sing, and like they don't understand. They're not singers, so I go, okay, I'll do what I can. I don't want to let you guys down.
Mm-hmm.
I go on stage and like I have barely any voice. I'm like holding out the mic for the crowd to sing lines because like I'm just fighting through, like it feels like sandpaper in my throat.
Right.
And then my voice is just, every show it's getting worse and worse because I'm just like grinding and grinding and grinding. But you don't want to do it for them.
And you don't have a vocal advocate. You don't have somebody there. Like you and I didn't have enough of a set relationship yet before you went on that tour for me to really jump in a big way and say, this isn't happening. Like now my guys, well, you know, all the bands from Five Sauce, they'll call me and say, I'm having an issue. You know, I don't feel good. Something's going on. And I'm there helping them every step of the way and supporting them and talking to their management. Or I had something just happen with somebody on Broadway, and this particular singer, same thing, now felt like she had to push through, and I jumped in and said, this isn't happening, because now it's diminished returns. Now not only can she not do these 8 shows, or he not do these 8 shows, but they're going to have vocal injuries, and they're going to be out like an injury for the entire season, if not forever. So I'm not letting that happen on my watch. And one of the cautionary tales that we have with you is the rest of the story, right? Of what ended up going down.
So on that tour, I've never really talked about this. On that tour, we played, I believe it was a show in Bangkok. And we were the opening band. We were playing with like one of the biggest bands in the world. So, you know, our sound and in-ears weren't as good. Like we had like 10 minutes of sound check. And so, you know, I'm already struggling because I can't hear myself and all of these small things. And then I get a parasite in Bangkok from drinking water out of a airport water fountain, just like one of those silver fountains. I had a headache, and I like really needed to take Tylenol. So I get a parasite. That jacks my whole body up. But the thing about this tour, and as I was saying before with the pressures, is like our next show was in Sydney, Australia. So Australia as a continent or as a country, whatever, it's super important to play the Sydney show, because like this could be a complete game changer for us in this whole territory. So I can't miss Sydney, but I'm lit up on drugs that doctors have put me on because I just had a parasite. So I can't even feel how much in pain my throat is.
So now you're on painkillers, you're on stuff for your stomach to kill the parasite, you're on antibiotics. And I'm like, I gotta get on stage. Like I can't. And my dad was coming. We had a Tokyo tour that was our headliner, or a Japan tour that started right after Sydney. And my dad had never left the country. I think he went to Mexico once, so he had never gone overseas. And the last thing I wanted to do was take that away from my dad, because it was all he was talking about. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to Japan with you guys. I'm gonna be like one of the boys. And I was not gonna cancel that tour. So I sang through Sydney. I felt great, like physically, because I couldn't feel anything. And I just oversang I shouldn't have even been singing. Oversang in Sydney. When the painkillers wore off, it was just like fire in my throat. I was like, what is going on? And then I continued to sing because I couldn't let my band down in Tokyo or my dad down. And after that tour, it was like I had no voice. I could barely talk. I mean, it was a disaster. And I remember we had radio shows coming up,
and I'd never done like really intense vocal rest. And intense vocal rest to me was like a day was hard. So I was like, I'm gonna do 2 weeks of vocal rest.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks, not a peep. I'm watching like, you know, seasons of Game of Thrones on my iPad every day. And I go to talk and to sing after 2 weeks and there's still no voice. And I remember Alex Marshall in my band, I remember just like breaking down in the hotel room. I just started crying and he just like hugged me and I was like, what am I supposed to do? Like, this is like my livelihood. If you're a guitar player and your guitar breaks, you buy a new guitar. You're a singer and your vocal cords break.
That's it.
It's your body. It's physical. It's interior. It's like there's only so much you can do. And obviously good training helps. And depending on what happens to your cords, you can get through it, work around it. And I think you taught me, I pretty much had to teach myself how to re-sing. It's like when you see an athlete have a devastating injury and they're like, look, you're never going to be the same player as you once were, but you can learn different aspects of the game injury, and you can get back to maybe the level that you were, but you're going to be a completely different player.
Right.
And so I actually think that, for example, on my new album, my vocals are the best vocals I've ever recorded, but I sing completely different than I used to. I don't sound too much different, but I had to retrain everything. I mean, it's been 6 years since I've seen you. So over the past 5 years, I've been like relearning how to sing, and I'm finally like confident in where I can sing now.
Well, it's just doing
5 years.
It's rehabbing and doing the warm-ups. And I always tell people, whether you're with me or you have a warm-up that you love or whatever training that you're doing, you come in and you have to get stronger in a new way. Because what people don't know about you, which I know, is we want to talk about, not to get too technical, we did have a laryngologist on here, and we dove into this whole problem, is that a hemmorrhage, for the most part, a polyp, a nodule, a cyst, is all fixable in the long term, depending on, you know, a week or 3 months or whatever. It's all fixable. Yours turned into a scar. And I have a couple clients like you that have come to me with those, and we're rehabbing them, and we're getting 30% more voice, 40% more voice. And the laryngologists are actually quite impressed, because they can't rehab. They can only do surgery. So there's not a lot of people that understand those harmonic spaces and how to rehab a scar. But a scar basically is when it settles in the cord, right? One or both cords. I believe yours is on one side. And it never goes away. It's there forever. There's nothing, because we sent you to Dr. Wu, we sent you to Dr. Steven Zeitel's, right? At Mass General.
That was the best in the world.
We sent you to the best in the world, and we tried to fill it up, right? They filled one up with saline, right, through the neck, and like a balloon, to give you a little bit more flexion. You think about it now, but this is what people have to understand, that if you don't stop, this is what your future is or is not going to look like, you know?
And I was told, like, by doctors that I would never sing again. They were like, it might be over, you know, like they were just like, because what happens is when you have a scar is, well, you know, you lose a little bit of the vibration. So normally, you know, your vocal cords kind of do this very fluid type of thing. When you have a scar, maybe this is doing this and this is kind of...
they're all over. They can't
it's just
connect
kind of
on
like,
a note, so your pitch is out.
I always say it's like, if you were to be like riding a motorcycle really fast and there was just a big pothole in the road and you just bump. So sometimes there's like notes, I've learned to kind of sing around them, but when I first got it, it would just be like I was driving fast and it was just like this. I just hit this like thing in the road where I was like, what the hell? Like that never used to happen.
Right.
And but it's only on like this tiny part of my voice.
Yeah, it's usually the bridge. So an FF sharp for a man and an A, B flat for a woman, but it's the inconsistency where you go over like what I call a speed bump. So I love that analogy. It's like your voice can't get into gear and it's not seamless. And so then the pitches are out because the chords are not shutting properly. And then once you get above it, you might have a couple notes after that. That's good. But you do have to learn to sing around it, just like somebody who has a paralyzed chord. So I've dealt with a couple of those in my career too. And you would know Joe Buck, right? Being a football fan. He was on our show and I rehabbed him from a massive paralyzed vocal cord after a procedure. And he's 98%. He doesn't have to sing, but listen to the way that he has to announce games.
He uses his voice probably more than I do.
Yeah, and when you get excited, you know, he's like, what if I get excited and I'm throwing a call and my voice doesn't work for me, you know, and I sound like a juvenile boy, but that never happened. So we were able to rehab him back. So
that's incredible. Yeah. I mean,
It's exciting, but it's also scary because not enough people understand. Like if somebody comes to me that was in your position now, we just stop it. We just put a stop to it immediately. And sometimes I even have a case right now, Alex, where one of my artists, he is just exploded. And I can't give away too much, but he's worked so hard to get where he's at. And all of a sudden he gets sick, same thing, he gets sick on tour. He has this big show he can't cancel, doesn't cancel. And then the chords, they start to mend, but he's got some PTSD from something that happened on tour a year ago, plus this event, and they collided, and now it's just all the muscles in his neck are grabbing and tense, but the vocal cords look pristine. And so now, the dad called and I said, listen, he's got to stop. Like, I don't care if it's, it's not going to change his career, but 2 months of his life to just be a normal person and to be stress-free and to deal with this event that happened in his life will put him back on the map. But if you guys try to push him through this, he's not going to come out really great on the other side.
I mean, that same thing that happened for me is I got so afraid to sing and so worried that my voice wasn't coming back and all these things that was a huge thing for me, is just tensing up.
Right.
It's like half of it is just so mental. It's just like crazy. And it's the difference in your singing capabilities that just rely on like confidence and like mental state.
Well, the mental state and the physical, like they go hand in hand. And so a lot of my singers, they'll have a little whiskey or they'll go smoke, smoke some dope or do an edible or whatever. And then all of a sudden they have more phonation, and so it shows you that when you shut those parts of your brain down that cause you stress and worry, that everything else is relaxed and functions. So those two are very, very important.
Yeah, I just think like young singers especially need to know that, like, I know so many young artists are so worried that if they go to a vocal coach, that they're going to lose their style, that they're going to learn to be classically trained and their cool, unique sound that they've built is going to go away. But what they don't realize is like there are vocal coaches such as yourself that allow you to maintain the integrity of your voice and your style, but your vocal health is like of utmost importance because your style doesn't matter if you can't sing.
Well, that's it. And I think
you can't physically sing.
I think it is a fear that is good to have if you don't do your research, because there are a lot of people that have gone to teachers that have turned them into that. I've got story after story of these voices that are totally ruined because they went to a musical theater, an old school opera coach or classical coach, and now they're trying to sing Ariana Grande. I'm like, girl, you can't sing in like this all the time. It's just, there's no power. So what I always do is liken it to athletes. You guys are athletes. And so you need to take what makes the singer special, but then you need to train them to become bionic. Yeah. And that's the only thing. That's the only difference. So you really do have to seek out a voice teacher as carefully as you would seek out a doctor or a physician.
And my guess, I don't know this, but my guess is that your training and what you're teaching and even the I guess curriculum, as you'd call it, is going to change and vary by every singer.
Every singer.
Like what you do with me isn't going to be what you do with Luke from 5 Seconds of Summer,
totally
or
different.
what you do with Noah Cyrus. Like it's going to be completely different.
Well, that's why I always tell people I've never sold. Back in the day, they sold CDs. Now downloads, everything's downloadable. But I don't sell anything because they don't work, and it's irresponsible. It's just irresponsible. Yeah. Like you said, everybody's a blueprint, and you have to stick to the integrity of that blueprint. Everybody has a million different issues, and then you have to cultivate a warm up that is just for that individual person. Yeah. Like Five Salsa, all the boys do very different warm ups. They have very different voices that need different things. And so we have to take them all separately. When did the Cab stop performing? I wanted to ask you.
2012.
Yeah. So that was done, right?
Right then. And for me, it was that challenge of trying to get, as I said, was I going to keep doing the Cab? Was I going to do a solo project? And I think I took like a year off of music. Then I started writing again. Release a solo project, and now doing another album with the Cab. So
I was told by my little minions that there was a tweet from Australia about you doing a one-off with the Cab, right?
That's probably fake.
Is that fake?
Probably.
Okay.
I don't know about that shit.
All right, so it's fake.
But the Cab is doing an album.
But you are going to do an album together now.
I'm going to the studio after this, so.
That's great. So it's exciting. I mean, it's not having been somebody that went through that with you, but then you've been traveling, and I know you've been singing and recording and writing intermittently, but now you met this wonderful lady that you've been with for how many years now? 6 years. And you two are just traveling the world. Like, I can't keep up.
She's awesome. She's adventurous. She's humble and loving and kind. I mean, she's anything someone could ever want. Yeah. You know, in a best friend and in a life partner and in someone's love, you know?
And where did you two meet? Because I don't even think I know this story.
We met in Los Angeles. It was her first day in Los Angeles. We kind of met as friends first. And she actually doesn't really listen to music. And her whole life, she only listened to music when her mom would play it when they cleaned the house as background noise. It didn't even matter what they were playing. It was just like, turn the radio on so like something will distract us. So it's been like fun for me to introduce her to everything musically. And I love it. I can like play her songs and she just like gives the gladiator like she doesn't know why it's like it makes her feel something or it doesn't. It's like first instinct. But it's coming
from a pure place. So that sounds kind of cool, right?
So,
cause she's a model, right? She's a Victoria's Secret model. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, tough. That's gotta be really rough for you. You didn't hit the jackpot at all there. She's a Victoria's Secret model. She's kind. She's your best friend.
Very lucky.
I said, when I saw, you know, look, everything on social media is so blown up, but I do know you well enough to know, and I did know you well enough to know where some of those photos and coming from your eyes and your soul, that there was this very authentic relationship going on there. And so in my mind, I'm like, 2 years ago, you should have proposed to her, but you finally did it.
I finally did it.
Was it rolling into 30? I don't know what.
No, it was, so in general, in Danish culture, they don't really get married a lot. It's like marriage is kind of like, well, like, I'm gonna spend the rest of my life with you, but it's like a formality of like, why do we gotta sign this paper? It's
they're so forward thinking.
They're just so like everything has to like make sense.
Right, it makes sense.
They're not really like dreamers. They're very like, to get from point A to point B, you obviously walk to it. Like it's not. They don't go, well, maybe I could fly to point B. I'll figure out a way. It's like they're very just like this.
Right.
And they're always so cool. They're never really sad and they're never really happy. They're just so incredibly laid back that when we first started dating, I remember being like, does she like
me?
Yeah,
can't
like,
tell.
because Americans are so emotive and they're like, you know, they'll watch sports and they'll be like, they'll be screaming and like fist pumping. And then you see a Dane and like they're watching their national soccer team and they score a goal and they're just like,
that's all you
like, that's it. And I'm like,
that's all you got.
And she's like, babe, I'm really excited.
Yeah.
Like super, super excited. I'm just like, are you though? She's like, yeah, like inside I'm really excited. And I'm like used to this.
So her name is Josephine, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so you've gotten to travel a lot with her, just the two of you, right? Through her job.
Yeah, both of our jobs. We kind of like, it's a fun relationship because if she's working overseas, and I have some days off, I'll just fly and meet her. And if I'm working overseas, she'll just do the same. So we end up, like she's going to Brazil tomorrow and then like we might meet up in Italy the week after. And then we're going to Fiji at the end of July, Alex, to swim with whales.
I want to come live with you guys.
So, but I think that was a key for even like my vocal stuff. You're talking about a mental state.
Yeah.
Just having her be just a calming factor in my life. Just having like this.
Somebody grounding you.
Yeah, but just I think knowing that like if music fails and if all of this doesn't work out, I'm still gonna be the happiest person alive.
You have her, yeah.
So like having that made me go like, okay, cool. Like I can do this because I love to do it, not because I have to do it.
Right.
You know, because I've just felt like a workhorse. I toured for like 10 years straight. We were playing like 300 shows a year at the beginning of our career, just trying to make fans and like, you know, grinding. So at one point I was just like, man, I got to remember that. Like I started this because I used to love to do it. Mm-hmm. And I shouldn't feel bad about protecting my voice. And I shouldn't feel bad about like taking a show off or missing a show if I'm
no,
sick.
and that's the huge cautionary tale, because I wish all of my artists would understand that. Had you made a different choice at that time, had you just looked at the long game and not the short game and taken care of yourself and had the knowledge to know what was going to happen and what could happen to your voice if you didn't protect it, if you had gone down a different road and perhaps taken a few weeks off, you would not be...
A few days off would have done wonders.
You would not be sitting here today having to work around this scar.
Yeah.
You know, and look, I guess in life there's a silver lining when something bad happens. It's all, it's all interrelated. You can share your story to other singers, because we are in a culture now where you guys are working so hard because all the money is coming from merch and the meet and greets and the promo and
albums, really.
Yeah, I mean, everything is down, it's all streaming now. So there's just, the revenue sources are so different than they were 20 years ago, where people were actually selling records, So you guys are working like dogs, and you have to be your best advocates. And I'm telling my singers this all the time. Yeah. You have to protect yourself. Even if you have 50 people in your camp around you going, you have to sing, you have to go, you have to. I'm telling you, no, you don't have to do anything. Yeah. What you have to do is take care of yourself. And that's really hard to impart on a 20-something.
Yeah, like if
that's in it.
If a football player had like a torn Achilles, would he be like, I'm going to go out and I'm still going to play the game? It's
right, but there's no coach
what are you gonna do?
That would throw someone, an athlete, in that, because they understand the consequence. They could not only just be out for the season, they could be out for good. So I like to impart that on my singers, that you guys have 2 vocal cords made of muscle. You're an athlete. You can train them to be stronger, weaker, whatever, but you can train them. And if you don't take care of them, if somebody puts you out in the game on your own and you don't have a coach or an advocate, you're going to have an injury. We see more and more and more of that. Justin had vocal cords were bruised. We've had all these other singers, having surgeries at such a young age, and it should all be, it can totally be avoided.
And I think, there's a, not a responsibility, but almost like young singers or old singers, whatever age you are, but singers shouldn't be afraid to reach out to other singers for help who have been through things. Like, I've had a few singers way more successful than I am who heard about my story or heard about it through friends or through you, who called me and reached out, and I'm like, please, let me help you, or let me give you advice, or let me tell you what I went through so you don't have to. I remember when I first hurt myself, Christina Perry was a really big help, because she had gone through some things.
Yeah, she's going to be on our show.
So I didn't know her. She wasn't a friend of mine. She just helped me out of wanting to help another artist and singer. And
it was a very scary time.
She was empathetic, and that's
half the battle.
I mean, so awesome of her.
It was a very scary time for her, but thank God that it was something fixable. And so you want to have that best case scenario, but it's so wonderful to see that you're still recording and singing, and you're working around the issue. You're working around the issue. And
I really think it's the best I've ever sang, which is really crazy. But I also think
But you're also in a mental...
I'm aware. I'm aware now of how I'm singing, what I'm singing.
Right.
So it actually forces me to be more on point, because I don't really have an option. I'm not just running with it spontaneously. I'm like, all right.
Well, it's that you don't know what you have until it's gone, you know? So I love that your life just seems like it's coming all together now. It's this puzzle that's all sort of starting to make sense.
I mean, here's the thing, right? Having a scarred vocal cord it sucks. Mm-hmm. But if that's the worst thing that's happened to me in my life, people have gone through so much worse.
Of course.
I can't let that defeat me, or I can't let that make me give up on everything that I've dreamed of since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I just had to go, I look up to a bunch of athletes. I remember when Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles, and he's my sports idol, tore his Achilles, and the dude got up and limped and shot and made 2 free throws after he tore his Achilles. And I remember watching a documentary on his rehab and how it was 10-hour days. He was picking up thousands of marbles with his toes and just putting them in buckets. And it was the hardest thing of his life. And I remember he was just like, I'm coming back. Like, I'm not done.
That's the difference between a major athlete and somebody that understands that type of discipline versus everybody else. That's why those guys get paid what they get paid.
Yeah.
Because they have the stick-to-itiveness. And if only singers would just have a tiny little bit of that and train with the right person, you know, and educate themselves. Half of my singers that come to me don't even know that the vocal cords are muscle. They don't know what they're made of. They have no idea of their anatomy. It's very sad to me. So, you know, it sucks that you had to go about it that way, but that you've come out the other side and you look at people like Kobe, who's rehabbed in such a way. It's a cautionary tale to singers. This is your livelihood. Yeah. Put a little bit of time into it. Put 15 minutes a day into warming up. It's not fun. You think all the athletes love stretching and the football players enjoy doing tires on the field. They have to, because it what makes them faster and more agile for the game. So
and I think
bringing that thought process in.
If you want to be great, you can be. You just have to put in the work.
Absolutely,
and
100%.
That's training. That's writing songs. That's it's so many things as an artist. But if you work hard at it, you can be great.
Exactly. You know? So switching gears a little bit. So you adopted this new artist name, Bohnes.
Bohnes was the solo project.
So Bohnes was your solo project. How did that come about? And like,
I just wanted to do something different, and I just wanted to do something like a little more rock and roll and dark. And actually, the lyrics were pretty, like, a lot more life and death is a little harsh, but it was more like darkness and light, kind of this balance of things which is so interesting, because not to cut you off, but if people really know who you are, you're the opposite of this sort of character that you have for yourself, you know? And so I know that there must be a story behind the name. Yeah, I mean, it was like, because I remember, so Bohnes to me was always like an alter ego, which is why it was so fun, because I could just build this character, and in these music videos I could kind of like, it was really easy for me to say like, okay, well, this is a Bohnes lyric, like that is something Bohnes would say, like this, you know, project. Mm-hmm. And I remember, you know, not to be cliche or corny, but I remember being like, my career was, I thought my career was over, right? Yeah. And so I was like, had this whole thing where I was like, no, like, I need to do a project, and it's like it's pretty much my vocal and artist resurrection. And so the Bohnes thing was kind of all about that. Like lyrically, it's kind of about
going
like,
from being totally stripped down
like
to
saying,
nothing.
like the opening song on the album. Yeah, exactly. It's like your bones are who you are at your core.
Right.
And it was kind of like the opening song is, it's like, I'm not ready to die. Like, I think one of the lyrics is like, tell the reaper I'll be coming back for more. So it's like, for me, it was almost singing to myself and writing for myself of like, I'm not done.
Right.
I have more to say. I have more to do. And that's actually, I've gotten that comment a lot the past few weeks, because word started to get out that the Cab's doing a new record. And I started playing like songs for my friends, and they're like, it's so funny because Bohnes was so cool, but like when we think of you, you're like, always laughing, you're smiling, you're traveling, you're like fun.
Yeah.
And Bohnes was like almost the opposite of that. And people are like really excited for this Cab project, because it's kind of like, the Cab is who I am. I started the band when I was 14. Mm-hmm. So Bohnes, I'll probably make more albums in the future, but it's just like this fun alter ego that I can kind of, it's like the other side.
Well, it's a part of you. It doesn't define you, but it's definitely a part of you, and an experience that you had to struggle internally, like you said, to be completely stripped down to nothing and have to sort of rebuild in a way. Yeah. So I think that we're not all just one thing. We're all many things.
Sure. And you don't always think happy thoughts. You're not always having fun. It's not always the time of your life. So to have that balance in two different music projects for me is like, it's like really awesome, because I can kind of talk about all aspects of my life while maintaining, you know, honesty and integrity and all of that.
So with the Cab, you have two albums. The first is the names of them were, is it 206 Act?
That was Bohnes. So Bohnes had Act 1, 206 Act 1,
and then 206 Act 2.
And 206 is the number of bones in the human body.
Okay, so I was going to ask you that. There has to be some type of correlation. So
yes, that's the number of bones.
Deep thoughts.
Yeah.
With Alex DeLeon. I love it. So now you're moving forward with the cab. We just talked about you just proposed to your girlfriend, right? So you guys are going to get married probably, I don't know. You don't know where yet, but
2020.
2020. Yeah. So a family affair, but it's so fun to watch you sort of come to fruition. I'm excited just for that and for the music. I mean, I love watching people when I've had them very, very young grow into this person now, this new decade and new story of their life. And then are you guys going to keep you're going to just keep traveling and writing?
Obviously, once the Cab album comes out, I'll get to kill two birds with one stone and tour and travel / play shows and do all that.
And you just had a 30th, right? We talked about that off air. So happy belated.
Thank you.
I can't believe that.
I can't believe I'm 30 years old.
Yeah. 30 is so young though.
I remember my dad when I was young, I think it was like his 40th birthday, and he's like, Alex, what's really crazy is he's like, you don't really feel different, like inside, like you kind of feel like the same person.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I feel, obviously I've gone through things in my life and I've gained knowledge and blah, blah, blah. He's like, but I feel like
you're the same person.
Guy. So it's like, it's weird to think that I'm 40 and like your body's aging.
Believe me, I know.
But I'm like the same guy, and I'm still, it's like just weird. It's like your body just starts like battling against you. And he's like, man, hangovers are worse when you're older.
I can't drink anymore.
He goes, I go out and I go play like football in the street with your brother, and I'm like, I can't walk for 4 days. He's just like, what's happening?
I know. Well, it does. I mean, that's like why you see a lot of more fit. Well, people who are into fitness and they care about their health, you see a lot more fit, perhaps even women now in their 40s. And then you do more fit than in their 20s because they can get away with more in their 20s and their 40s. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't like the way I feel. I don't like the way I look. I don't like getting out of bed. So what am I going to do? I got to work with a trainer. I need to, take care of my skin. I need to eat healthy. I need to take out the sugar.
Yeah, no more Taco Bell at 3 a.m.
God, no. So, I probably take better care of myself now than I did 20 years ago or even 10 years ago.
I'm the same way. I mean, I remember when we used to tour when I was young, I'd eat 20-piece nugget at McDonald's, or I'd go to Arby's. I mean, that's all there was at truck stops. So I'd eat that, and now I'm like, eat grilled chicken and spinach, and I'm like, I'm going to like juice places to get like ginger cayenne shots.
Welcome to my husband's world, right? He's 57 now, but he's still out there coaching 5 sports, and he's on the field, and he's out throwing footballs, and he still works out an hour and a half a day and lifts and goes to work. I mean, I don't know, but it's all just because he's eaten so clean his whole life. He's always run like an athlete, so there's something to be said for that.
Body's your temple, right? That's what they say.
But it is. It's the trick, because the body can't do what it used to do, but the brain is more mature and you feel set. For men, I think probably 35 to 45 is your best 10 years. You just know who you are, and you're set in your life. And I don't know, it just seems to be that settling period. So
sweet spot.
That sweet spot. So 30 still to me is very, very young. So I wanted to ask you a couple more questions about then moving forward. Where can your audience find you now? I mean, I know Instagram, because you guys are all over
Obviously,
Instagram.
Obviously, there's Instagram and Twitter, but music's in this great place where it's really accessible, but it's also hard for artists because there's so many artists, and it's so easy to get your content online.
Saturated, right?
But I love Spotify. I love those things. I discover new artists every week, just going through all of the algorithms on Apple Music and Spotify and Pandora and all of these things. So I think it's great. So I have pretty much, as most artists have realized, that you're pretty much giving away your music for free. Yeah. So anyone who wants to listen to The Cab or Bones on Spotify or Apple Music, any of those things, it's awesome. Because for me, I just want my music to get out to as many people as possible.
Well, you travel so much that how many countries would you say? We've got
I think I'm at
have you counted them?
Almost 90.
Your miles must be insane.
Yeah.
I'm going to call Alex first. Can I get some flight miles, please? I want to go take my kids to Hawaii this year.
I mean, I've got to be close to 90. But, it's crazy because I feel like...
That's nuts.
I feel like I haven't even made a dent. Like, I look at a map, and I know that I've traveled, like, more than most of the people I know. But I'm like, oh, my God, like, I haven't been to India. I haven't been to Russia. And you're talking just some of the biggest land masses on planet Earth. So when I look at a map, I just have these, like, blank
You've been
spaces.
to Dubai.
I've been to a lot of countries in the Middle East, but I've never been to India.
Really?
I've never been
Surprising you just didn't like hop on over and...
Yeah. One of these days.
We're here.
Yeah. I mean, it's always like, it's hard not to always extend. Like I was just in Qatar and I was like, I'm right next door. Like, I know it seems crazy, but like Saudi Arabia. And I'm like, that'd be really awesome to go. Like, I want to go to the places that no one else wants to go to.
So you should be really good at geography. So what we should have done is we usually have these like segments on the show. And now I'm thinking we should have a geography segment. You know, my geography is like terrible. I think I had a semester in high school and that's all she wrote. So having to stare at maps and find out all these little places and like soak up the cultures, you know, but you have gotten to go to so many places. So it must be very exciting, even at 30, to know you've seen a vast majority of the world. I mean, that alone is pretty awesome.
I just think the most important thing is, I think every guy, every person in their teenage years and early 20s, it's like, it's the whole cliche, like you feel invincible, you have like this ego, but it wasn't like an ego as like I thought I was better than anyone else. It was just like you just think you're unbreakable, you think you know everything.
Right.
And I think for me, traveling was just this eye-opening experience of like empathy and seeing how like people actually live in the world and seeing like how small your hometown is and seeing that like
and how much you don't matter. You think you matter so much.
These trivial things that you might go through in your day.
Yeah.
You drop a coffee and it's all over your shoe and you're pissed off the rest of the day. And then you go to these countries and you see like these circumstances that people are forced to live in out of their control. And you're like, man, was I really pissed off about spilling coffee on my Nikes?
It puts things into perspective.
It just puts, and I think that is like the most important thing about traveling is like gaining empathy, like just for other people in the world from different cultures and backgrounds and all of that.
I love that. We could maybe sprinkle some of that on our streets of LA. We were out for Father's Day taking a bike ride and we were crossing over to Hunga.
Yeah.
And a car stopped for us. And so I have my two 10-year-olds and my husband and I, and we're just crossing the street and there was a car behind and just the guy's laying on his horn. He's laying on his horn and he's yelling and screaming. And the guy stopped for us, turned around and said, there's human beings trying to cross the street. And the guy just, you know, there's no sanctity for human life, you know? And like you said, traveling, that's why I want to take my kids as many places as possible. Because I learned that. I grew up in Europe till I was 10, you know, and we did a lot of traveling, not anywhere as much as you, but I've been to enough countries. And that was the biggest thing that I've gained is empathy. Yeah. Real empathy.
I have 4 siblings and they're all like 17, 18, you know, they're around that age. And, you know, I want to get them like a nice graduation gift, each of them.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you're 18 years old, you want like, one brother was like, I want a pair of those like really rare, cool off-white Jordans.
Yeah.
You know, those like $1,500 pair of shoes. And I'm like, I'll make you a deal. You choose any city in the world that you want to go to, and we'll do a trip, me and you there together. And so all of my siblings, I've given them a trip. So one brother chose Japan. My baby sister, I actually leave in 10 days to go to Italy. She wanted to go to Italy. So like, I would rather give that experience and them getting empathy and them just like realizing how big the world is. And you get so caught up when you're young on like in your bubble, your high school friends and you know what you're gonna do on Friday night, and you just forget, I think, especially in America, because America's so big. If you have time off, you know, people in LA will go to Vegas or people will go to Orlando or whatever it is, right? And you go, man, there's like such a big world for you to like stay put. And I just think that like everyone, whether it's really far away or whether it's like nearby, I think everyone could just learn more than they think they can learn from traveling. Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I could not agree more. And I think it's such a message, you know, even all these artists, I look at them playing in all these countries, and sadly for artists, they're only dumped out for about 2 days, 3 days maybe, and then they're out again. They don't have time to really take it in, but it seems like you've been able to do the best of both. You're able to sit and be with your girlfriend, now fiance, and have a moment or have a few days to yourself to soak up the culture. And you've been to so many different places that you're able to stop and take a deep breath and have that. And I think that's the biggest gift. Ironically enough, that tour, the Maroon 5 tour, for whatever reason, they booked it. It was like show, a few days off, show a few days off. Not every time, but I remember we had 3 days off before Thailand. We had 2 days in Taiwan. I had 4 days off in Hong Kong. So it was, I didn't know it then. It was a low point in my life because I was damaging my vocal cords, but it also was the time that I fell in love with traveling, because it was the first time that I had really gotten time. As you said, you don't normally get time on tour. It was the first tour where I actually was like, oh my God, I can go explore Thailand. Like I can just go wander. I can go experience some things. I can take a car into the jungle, and like, that was the first time. So it's weird. It's like, you know, they say for every end there's a beginning, and you don't know, like, so many bad moments become catalysts for something so much greater, so much positivity, and you don't realize it at the time. But that tour was like this weird dichotomy of the best time,
and the worst
time, like all at once.
Well, it's been so great having you today, Alex, on LipRoll, and I just want to thank our listeners for listening and tuning in. And you want to look out Friday on our YouTube channel for our bonus episode with Alex. Ding, ding, ding. We do have a bonus episode. Yes, we do. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming.